Colombia has two separate championships in the year. And the first in 2025 was won by Santa Fe of Bogota, a club whose shirts are a tribute to Arsenal. You know who the top goal scorer was? Hugo Rodallega, late of the Premier League. He turned 40 in July. He was the top goal scorer. The second top goal scorer, a mere spring chicken, just 2 months younger than him, Dayro Moreno, turned 40 in September. Dayro Moreno was the baby of the team when Once Caldas were surprise winners of the Copa Libertadores in 2004. He's back there now. He even won a recall to the national team towards the end of the year at the age of 40. The second championship in the year, it was won by Junior of Barranquilla. Didn't score a lot of goals, but getting a lot of game time, especially off the bench. Turned 40 in May. Teo Gutiérrez, a striker who's played all over. He played in Turkey, he played in Portugal, and all over Latin America as well. Conclusion here, the Colombian Championship is a veterans parade. At the other end of the scale, had a very good under-20 side who came third in the World Cup this year. That side is already being picked apart. The goalkeeper, good goalkeeper, Jordan Garcia, he's going to Leon in Mexico. The midfield powerhouse, another Jordan Barrera, already in Brazil with Botafogo. And the striker, Neisa Villarreal, he was the top goal scorer of the South American under-20s at the top of the year. He was joint top goal scorer of the under-20 World Cup. He leaves his club, Millonarios, on a free to join Cruzeiro in Brazil without scoring a single goal in the Colombian league. So that, I think, is very, very emblematic of where Colombian football is. And it helps explains why the clubs perform so poorly. They should be much, much better. Colombia has, outside Brazil, the biggest population in South America. It's a bigger population than Argentina. And also, it's not nearly as centralized as a lot of the South American countries are. In Argentina, for example, very centralized around Buenos Aires. Football is the game of the city, and Colombia has a number of urban centres, and that's good for football. And Bogota has two big teams. Medellin has two big teams. Cali has two big teams. Barranquilla has one. The coffee growing region there has a few interesting sides. So really, Colombia should be Brazil's biggest challengers, and as they are in women's football at the national team level. But it's really not happening at the club level. Only 3 times since the competition started in 1960 have Colombians won the Copa Libertadores, South America's Champions League. The last one, 2016, Atlético Nacional, probably the biggest side in the country. Atlético Nacional from Medellin. Since then, Colombian sides have done absolutely nothing. There was one quarter-finalist a couple of years ago, surprise quarter-finalist, not one of the bigger teams, Deportivo Pereira, who got through to the quarterfinals and were then wiped out. So nothing since 2016. And that date, 2016, is significant because up to that point, the Libertadores was squeezed into the first half of the year. Now, it goes on for the entire year. And what that means is there's the transfer window in the middle of the year, and there is another chance for Colombian clubs to sell their players. And that's all they seem interested in. Probably a hugely significant moment in this year's Libertadores. Atlético Nacional played a very good group phase. And one of their stars, the centre forward, Kevin Viveros, then in the middle of the year, before the knockout games start, he is sold to Brazil's second division. And then Atlético Nacional in the first knockout game, they're against São Paulo of Brazil. They're much the better side for the 2 games. Goes to penalties. They lose on penalties. And one of their problems is they just can't put the ball in the back of the net. They have sold their star striker to Brazil's second division. So that the clubs, they only want to sell. They're actually set up, most of these clubs, they're set up on business lines. But they're not very good businessmen. And Colombia's TV deal is worth something like 12% of Brazil's TV deal. They're not even particularly good at talent spotting. And again, Brazil is a huge part of the story here. Jhon Arias, lovely little player. He's at Wolves now. He's had trouble finding his feet in a sinking side. He's a combinations player. He needs to be on the same wavelength as his colleagues, and he doesn't seem to have quite found that yet for Wolves. He was picked up by Fluminense of Brazil from Colombian football, and Fluminense paid $600,000 for 50% of him. Colombia had no idea of what they had, and it was with Fluminense that he blossomed, and he's now a regular international for the Colombian national team. There's another one at Fluminense now, a long-legged, dynamic winger, Kevin Serna, who recently got into the Colombia squad. Fluminense picked him up from Peru. Colombian football had lost him to Peru. Maybe the most emblematic of all is the midfielder Richard Ríos, who's now really finding his feet at Benfica. Ríos was discovered in Brazil representing Colombia in a futsal tournament. And it was in Brazil that he was transformed into an 11-a-side player, a midfielder, terrific dynamism, very, very versatile, now a key part of the Colombian national team. No thanks to Colombian football, a lot of thanks to Brazilian football. This year, a number of Colombians who were having hard times in Europe and really want to get back into the national team squad in the build-up to the World Cup, what do they decide to do? Come back to South America, but not to Colombia, Brazil. And this happened a lot. And Vasco da Gama have two, the centre-back Carlos Cuesta, the winger Andres Gomez. There is Jorge Carrascal, very good playmaker, almost like the reserve to James Rodriguez in the national team. He was in Russia. He's come back and joined Flamengo in Brazil. And there's the former Premier League winger who ran into such injury problems, Luis Sinisterra of Leeds and of Bournemouth. He's now at Cruzeiro, where he's unfortunately also going through injury problems. But all these players have decided that Brazilian football gives them a much, much better platform, much more visibility to get back in the Colombian national team than Colombian football does. So there's a real sense, I think, that in so many ways, both in business terms and in the development of talent, that Colombian football is punching massively below its weight. There is a club in Colombia with an excellent record in youth development. It's a club called Envigado. It's on the outskirts of Medellin. And this club has produced a number of top players. It was where James Rodriguez started. It was where John Duran started. And there have been plenty more as well. But this club, Envigado, they're now in the Colombian second division. You contrast that with the club of a similar size in Ecuador, Independiente del Valle, from the outskirts of Quito, who just in the last few days, they've sold 3 16-year-olds to the Premier League. A couple of twins to Arsenal, a centre-back to Chelsea. This is the club that produced Moisés Caicedo, that produced Pacho of Paris Saint-Germain, Hincapié of Arsenal, and so many more. So Independiente del Valle are producing talent, but also, despite their size, they are winning domestic and international titles. They've just won the Ecuadorian League. They've won the South America's version of the Europa League twice. So they're able to produce, to sell, and to compete. If Ecuador can do it, why can't Colombia?